Nothing, from A to Z. Dedicated to you, the one who seeks oneself. Forward. Warning. Don't bother reading this book if you are looking for answers. Don't read it if you're looking for something more than you already have. Don't read it looking to gain new insight or knowledge. I do not claim to have any true information in this book. I do not claim to have placed any information whatsoever in this book. This book is simply meant to open one's mind to possibilities. Don't bother reading this book if you aren't open-minded. If you take the contents seriously, you will be overcome with emotional distress and anxiety. So don't take it too seriously. But don't just reject it straight away either. Remember, proceeding open-minded is an absolute necessity here. Proceed with caution. Preface. There are many words people use to describe reality. Life, consciousness, existence, etc. I prefer to use a very specific word when speaking on the subject. That word is nothing. When we think of nothing, the mind tends to conjure up ideas of emptiness in either a solid darkness or translucent light, but those are both some things, not no things. Nothing is a very specific topic of discussion, and if I can be so bold, impossible to discuss at all. But there are some ideas and thought experiments to try that will help open your mind. Go into the rest of this book with zero expectations and with a fully open mind, and you may find its contents to be rather enlightening. Maybe not. Oh well. Nothing, from A to Z, by you. A. Awareness. The only way you are even able to read these words is through the presence of awareness. Awareness encompasses and is the substrate to the entirety of all existence. It is impermeable and untouchable. It cannot be diminished, for it is already void of form. Its physicality consists of nothing. Awareness is the act of being, by which the universe takes shape and forms stories to explain itself, to itself, through itself. Only by the light of awareness can awareness become aware of itself. This is the act of mindfulness, and has been practiced for centuries in many different forms. Some of these forms consist of, but are not limited to, meditation, breathing techniques, psychoactive compounds and plant medicine, extreme sensory overloads, physical endurance, and many more. B. Blank. Reality is to the story of you, as a blank canvas is to a painter. The canvas contains nothing. The painter then sees this nothing in a vastly different manner than, say, a plumber would. The painter sees infinite possibilities within the nothing. The blankness of the canvas creates a multitude of options for the painter. In the exact same manner, what you call your life is actually nothing more than a blank mental canvas. You have infinite ways in which to approach the story and execute the narrative. One man can see a bowl of rice and be disappointed in his lack, while another man can see the same bowl and fall to the ground in gratitude. The way in which the world is looked at is the paint, and the art is how it is viewed by the spectator. Perspective paints the canvas. Opinion views the painting. C. Clarity. Clarity comes from there being no obstructions in the way of reality. Nothing being in the forefront of one's life creates focus upon clarity. With clarity being the forefront, obstructions caused by the mind-made illusory practices have nowhere to root themselves. This creates a gap in mind-made chatter and gives way to the ever-present and already processing clarity that pervades our existence. Without clarity, the presence of reality becomes overlaid with lies, all in hopes of finding something greater than what is already the case. This is a pointless endeavor, for the only real problem is the creation of problematic ideas and conceptual frameworks. Without the idea of a problem, clarity shines through with ease, and it is seen as the only possibility, in confusion, clarity is still present. D. Death. Death is often viewed as a finishing of life. It has been compared to an end or non-existence. The idea of death is something completely misunderstood. How would someone who has never died explain death in such a matter-of-fact way? It is unknowable because it has never occurred. Death has happened as an illusion since its inception. For centuries, cultures have revered death for its completion of its own journey back to realization. Life cannot die, for life is the concept that gives the idea of death. If life ceases, death ceases with it. Therefore, in death, the only thing that can cease is the illusory fabric of death, which in itself is nothing more than a complex narrative given to oneself as a means of fear-induced identification. Death is feared because it will be seen as false in the event of its own occurrence. E. Everything. Everything. That seems like a lot. But is it? In reality, what is everything? Is there substance to it? What is that substance made of? What is that substance made of? What is everything? Could it be that everything is actually just nothing in disguise? Tricking something into believing it's real? Have you ever even thought about this thought? Let's say you could contain everything inside of something. What would that something be that rests outside of everything? It couldn't be a thing, or it would be included in everything, wouldn't it? Nothing is the only possible container to everything, in turn making everything nothing. The physicality of everything comes from the root of nothing. Out of nothing, everything exists. Out of everything, nothing is present. Duality is an illusion. F. Forever. Forever seems like such a long time, until you realize that you're resting in it already. The moment is eternal. Forever is here right now. When was the last time you weren't here? When were you gone? When have you not been seated in the center of your own consciousness? If you're honest with yourself, you'll have a hard time finding the last time you weren't seated in the root of your own experience. The reason you can't find it is that you've always been at the center of that. No matter when the question is asked, there you are, forever. It has always been this way and will always be this way. What other way could it be, and when would it happen? The more these questions are asked and the more they are entertained, the clearer the answer becomes. It has been this way forever. G. Grounding. Have you ever put your bare feet on the natural ground, directly onto grass, dirt, mud, rocks, or plant life? Have you felt the energy boost that occurs during that period? This is a very simple and physical example of grounding. Connection to the source of all energy. Grounding can be a physical exchange between life forces, or it can be a reconnecting to the source of all life. Grounding can connect you back with the source in which life emits itself. With breathwork and intense focused attention, grounding settles back into its natural state. An occurrence that the human mind has long forgotten, but is starting to make a loud return to the forefront of mainstream psychology and scientific circles. Meditation is another act of grounding by bringing one's attention to one's own attention. H. Harmony. Harmony pervades all of life. Up is harmonious with down, good harmonious with evil, right harmonious with wrong, nothing harmonious with everything. Like the notes that make up a chord, so are we harmonious to the universe. As single notes, we can clash or blend with other single notes. But when we work as units, we are then formed to create chords. We then take those chords to form songs, songs to albums, albums to discographies, discographies to legacies, and legacies to legends. All of it tying in harmoniously with the next, and the previous. All is one harmonious act performed by the universe, for the universe, with the universe. Symbiotic balance equates well to harmony and is the natural state of existence as a whole. The goal of the universe is to play all the notes until it finds all the chords possible. I. Infinity. Infinity is impossible to grasp. It is a never-ending, therefore never-beginning occurrence that is the unfolding of all of reality. It is what we term the present moment, or now. There is only and has ever been only that occurrence. We term it and immediately lose the power of the understanding. Once a label occurs, a finite attribute has been placed on an unlimited source of all existence. This source is infinity itself. It isn't something to be grasped or analyzed by the thought-based conceptual framework in which most of human consciousness operates. Instead, it is rather the what remains once all analyzing ceases. There is a presence that has remained throughout your entire life. This presence is that of infinity. It is your own consciousness. It is the bowl in which the juice of analysis is sipped. It is all-encompassing, eternally. J. Joke. Knock knock. Who's there? Just you. That's it. That's the cosmic joke. That's the biggest prank that you've ever pulled, and you pulled it on yourself. It's a ridiculous joke because how would you fall for such a joke? You would know you were playing it on yourself, right? Right. Unless, of course, that was part of the joke. I mean, that would be pretty funny, wouldn't it? Laughter creates such a profound energy inside of us that if the universe wanted to create a vast amount of energy for it to use, why not play a joke? It would know it's fine because it's just a joke on itself. It isn't on someone else, so when the joke's realized, the only one to blame is the one who started the joke. You started it all. The best part of the joke is that the joke was on yourself. There isn't anyone else to play a joke on anyways, after all. K. Knowing. Knowing. What does that mean? Does it mean 2 + 2 = 4? No, it couldn't mean that. 2 + 2 = 4. Period. No matter what. This couldn't be different. That's not quite intellectual enough for me, I can hear you now. What does intellectuality mean? Does it mean that you have a sum total and a sum total worked out against each other? No, of course it couldn't mean that. What is the first sum total compared to the second? Is there a difference? Or is it the same no matter what? The only difference is the variable. If you understand algebra, then this is simple. Blank plus blank equals blank. That is a typical algebraic equation. Variable x multiplied by another variable, y, equals a variable, z, i.e. x plus y equals z. This is the same throughout all of reality, a simple algebraic equation. Nothing plus something equals everything. L. Love. The universe is love. I'm sure you've heard this saying. It's not just a saying, it's the truth. All of life in its entirety is love. Not in a romantic or an endearing kind of way. We're talking about real love, unconditional love, the kind of love that allows all, including the things we dislike about life. Reality shows that all things, including the things made of opinion, are allowed and both tolerated and not tolerated. Reality allows for both to exist simultaneously without condemning one or the other. Condemnation is a human thought construct and is also allowed in the totality of reality. True or false, reality persists. Reality equals unconditional love. There is no limit to the allowance in which reality gives to the mind. The mind is allowed all of the fantasy it can create. It is not limited by conditions. M. Mind. What is the mind? Is it your brain? It wouldn't be your brain, or you would call it your brain. Besides, your brain is a muscle. You don't use your bicep to pick up a heavy weight. You use your strength. Strength isn't an object. Strength can't be held in your hand like a surgeon can hold a person's bicep. The bicep isn't the strength. In the same way, the brain is not the mind. Most would say that thoughts are the mind. If that were so, who is hearing the thoughts? Your mind. Of course. It's obvious. Your mind is what creates the idea of there even being a brain for its own awareness to come from. So if you evaluate this suggestion long enough, you will conclude that the mind creates the brain, not the other way around. The mind is prior to the realm of physicality. Consciousness creates reality. Always. N. Nothing. I would leave this page blank, but you would still see something. I can't actually put nothing in this book, mainly because that is already what it is made of. Nothing is the substance in which the entire universe comes out of. There is the void, then the universe. It's not in some far-off distant land you can't see. It is what you are. Nothing is the ever-pervading source of all of life in existence. Nothing gives rise to everything and creates a duality in a non-dualistic whole. Because you are this, the whole universe seems to be playing itself out to you. But there is no you. There is no universe. There is only nothing. Don't try to grasp this or understand what's being pointed at here. There is nothing to understand, and nowhere to point. It's like the old saying, anywhere you go, there you are. O. Open. Open-ended, open-minded, open-hearted, open doors, open sesame. Open means one thing: no obstructions. It means that no matter what, closed isn't the option. Closed-off waterways end up causing floods. Closed-up windows create stale air. Closed-down attitudes create toxic anxiety. Being open creates a flow of energy, a flow of life. Opening your mind and heart to the present moment is one of the most transformative acts you can do for yourself. It creates a path of harmony to pass through you with ease, and like an open window, a breeze of understanding and fresh development can be created in a place that before was closed off and dormant. Anxiety and depression cannot last in the presence of openness. Only through clinging to opinions and ideas can conceptually based emotions survive. P. Presence. Presence. When you think of this word, what comes to mind? Is it a picture of some distant or nearby glowing light? Is it a feeling of warmth or comfort? Is it a happy or bad idea? Is it anything outside of the moment? That's the key question. Could presence itself be existent anywhere outside of the present? Isn't the core of presence the present? Has that ever changed? This presence that you actually are hasn't ever changed. It always has been the exact same presence as it always will be. Think back to when you were a child, without referencing any part of your body or your life situations at the time. Simply the experience of being you. Has that ever changed? The answer should be obvious. The same awareness reading this book is the same awareness that is thinking of its past. This is presence. It's simply you. Q. Qualia. Qualia is a philosophical term used to describe a type of experience in which is only known by the experiencer. It cannot be explained through language, but it can be pointed at. For instance, the color that we see when we see the color red is the qualia of the color. It's not the substance of the color, it's the experience of the color. Taste is another example of qualia, and a great example of why it's so difficult to explain to another. As another example, let's think of the taste of honey. I can try to explain what honey tastes like to you, but unless you taste honey for yourself, you won't experience the honey's qualia. Smell Taste, sight, sound, and touch are not only our senses, but the tools in which we use to experience the qualia of existence. Thoughts are also a type of qualia, as they are only known and experienced by you. R. Reality. Reality means what is real. So what is reality? What is real? Have you ever thought about this? Do you think you already know? Reality doesn't mean what you think you know about it. It means what is actually the case about it. Which means that to understand reality, you actually have to be outside of it. As a human, we are taught from a young age that we can quantize and evaluate reality. Reality itself is completely unknowable. You are experiencing reality from inside of it. Therefore, you are a part of the experiment. You can't accurately describe reality because it is you. Reality can't be known by you because it itself is you in its entirety. You can't get away from reality because it's what is real. No matter what you have convinced yourself, reality cannot be altered. It would just become a new reality. S. Singularity. In today's world, there's talk of the singularity. It's a word used often in conjunction with artificial intelligence technology. It is the concept that with the ever-changing and evolving technological advancements in AI, there will be a point in which the entire universe is omnipotently known by a singular consciousness. The idea is a great idea, but it's just an idea. Because it's an idea, it has no existence to it other than it being an idea. The challenge is to recognize that the actual singularity is occurring right this moment. It's you. You are the Big Bang in action. You are that singularity. You are the full extent of universal knowledge. Don't mix this up with your thoughts and thought-made conceptual ideas, though. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that silent observational witness. T. Transcendence. Transcendental experience is something often thought to be mystical, illusory, or flat-out impossible. But I'm here to argue that transcendence is not only possible, but is the only possibility. Think of where you started. Don't say your birth either. I want you to go back to where you really started. If you follow the trail, it will take you straight to nothing. You will realize nothing is where you came from. Therefore, nothing is where you will return. This act is transcendence. Not an act like breathing or jumping or even pretending to be a character. Transcendence is the letting go of the character, a letting go of action, a recognition of wholeness, undisturbed and eternal. Ever-present and all-encompassing. It is the very existence that you term you. This is the entirety of existence realizing itself. U. Unity. In today's world, unity seems so far, so distant, such a far cry from where we are. This is simply because there's been an idea introduced of us and we, they and them. In reality, it's just you. There isn't anyone else here. Just you. Yes, the one hearing these words. That's who I'm talking about. This was written by you, for you, through you. Not one other soul was involved in making this book. So unity is that far away. It's actually impossible to achieve. Not because it doesn't exist or it's just too far-fetched a dream. No, it's much more simple than that. It cannot be achieved because everything is already unified. It's already whole. How do you patch a hole if there is no hole? Unification is impossible because everything is already a singular, unified whole. It's you. Where does the experience of you end? V. Void. The term void is a simple idea. It's the lack of, well, anything at all. The void is often referred to in both spiritual as well as psychedelic circles to refer to that which cannot be known. An experience with the compound NN-DMT, where a breakthrough occurs, is often referred to as entering the void. This intense experience connects the participant to the void itself. The division becomes whole again and separation ceases. This is also referred to as an ego death. Many people have experienced this state of consciousness and come back with an attempt to describe it, but nothing cannot be described. Once description occurs, nothing becomes something. Truth is obscured, but never lost. The sun cannot be extinguished by clouds. Awareness cannot be extinguished by illusion. W. Whole. Wholeness is often misunderstood. The term whole is usually thought of as a conglomeration of many things being grouped in a sort of teamed-up bunch, and then the group being called the whole. This isn't at all what we mean here by whole. What we mean is that we isn't we at all, just like the leaves are not separate from a tree, or your fingers are not separate from your hand. In the same way, you are not separate from the whole. There is nothing except the whole. The whole is nothing. That is what makes it whole. If it was one, it could imply there are more. One implies two. Nothing is the canvas in which something can be painted. Without this whole being present as nothing, something would be lost in the somethingness of it all. Because of the nothingness of it all, there is something. X. X. A variable, or x, is used in algebraic formulas as an unknown and ever-changing answer. A placeholder almost. This plus that equals x. This can also be applied to your purpose in life. It all depends on your situation plus your conditioning equals x. The variable here being the experience of existence itself. This variable is a constant and is never a solid answer. It is always a variable. It is always changing. It is dependent upon different equations as to what the variable means. Ultimately, the equation doesn't have any more purpose than the variable. It's constantly changing. You can find great depth in figuring out the equations to life. This can help show you the impermanence and constant shift of the ever-ready nothing that pervades your existence. Your existence is nothing. Nothing is the variable. Why? You. You are the truest thing you know. There is nothing closer to your own experience than you. You have always been the main focus and the center point of your experience. This is simple. What isn't quite as simple is recognizing that every other you meet isn't really other than you. This has always been the case and will always remain that way. Go into your own experience right now and verify if this is the case. Whose perspective do you have access to? Whose life are you experiencing? How do you know this answer? Awareness sits pretending to be many things in the universe, but perhaps the most subtle and nuanced experience is the experience of you. The universe wants to experience itself, and the only means it has to do so is through your current existence. Without this existence, it has nothing. Z. Zero. Zero seems so simple, but it's very clever in the way it hides itself. Zero is much larger than you ever anticipated. Zero seems like it would be the smallest thing you could know, but you cannot know zero. You can only be zero. Being zero is the recognition of the universe as a non-dualistic and inseparable whole, created in, for, and out of consciousness, for the simple purpose of creating its own purpose. Zero is the clear slate in which all other numbers and all other things can exist. Zero is the balanced center. Before is negative, after is positive. The past is memory, the future is anticipation. Zero is the harmonious middle. It is you. It is nothing. It simply is. There is no grasping this. Don't try. Wherever you go, there you are. So don't look too long before realizing everything is perfectly zero. Epilogue. If at any point you felt confused during the reading of this book, don't think too hard on it and just go back over the material at your own pace. If you felt that you digested the material well, you should also go back and read the material again. If you feel that the material could have been more helpful, reread the material. There is nothing here for you to learn that you don't already know. So read the material however many times you would like. It will never give you the answer. simply arrows that can point the way. Don't ever feel discouraged in finding the truth in things. Truth will remain forever. The only thing in danger of loss is egoic conditioning, illusion, and falsehood. This is meant to lead you to a true understanding of peace and harmony. Of course, you can't ever be outside of that understanding. You can only pretend to be. There is only here and now, eternally.